Democratic Senator Chris Coons, Delaware. Senator, thanks for joining us on this. Really appreciate it. Let's start with the negatives, where I ended with Anna Palmer. And that is Manchin and Sinema. I think you knew I was going to go here for a moment, right? A lot of folks wondering as to whether or not the Democrats can keep it together in the Senate, right, for the reconciliation bill. Looking ahead, of course, beyond the achievements Democrats made today. What types of conversations are you having with your colleagues right now, especially Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, when it comes to that?
Well, Yasmin, we're going to see later tonight or very early tomorrow morning a proof point about whether or not my colleagues, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, will join all the rest of the Democratic caucus in voting to proceed with the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. I think they will. And I think they'll send a clear signal that they want to work with our caucus to find a path forward for passing through the Senate, sending to the House, and ultimately to President Biden's desk a bold piece of legislation that will tackle climate change, that will reduce costs for working Americans on child care and health care and higher education, that will give a big tax cut to middle-class Americans, and that will be paid for by the wealthiest Americans and corporations. So I think that's supported throughout our whole caucus, and I think they'll have a chance to show it. But let's not just start, Yasmin, with the negative. Let's just take one sentence if we could, on the positive. Because this bipartisan deal was really hard to get done, and it's a big deal. President Biden's about to speak to this. But frankly, my friend and my predecessor here in the Senate, Joe Biden, ran for president on the idea that we can still come together and do big things in this country, and our government, our Congress, and our president can work together to fix the daily issues in people's lives, like potholes or delays on highways or on Amtrak, challenges at our airports, needing access to broadband so our kids can go to school or we can access telehealth. This bipartisan deal is going to deliver $1.2 trillion over 8 years and create 650,000 new high-skill, high-wage jobs. This is a big win for the Republicans and Democrats who work closely together to get it done, for Majority Leader Schumer, who gave us the space to come to this agreement, my friend and colleague Tom Carper, who floor managed this bill, and of course, President Biden, who is now also going to help us as a caucus move forward on the bold agenda items that only Democrats support and that we frankly will mostly end up running on next year in the elections. We can do both, and we can move our country forward.
We are hearing of the successes in the Senate and your positivity when it comes to the passage of this infrastructure bill. We hear you, Senator Coons, but with that, it still needs to get to the House, and it needs to get to the president's desk as well for the signing, which you well know. Are you worried about Speaker Pelosi wanting to work this bill in tandem with infrastructure?
Look, I trust that Speaker Pelosi realizes that we have a limited amount of time for us to get both of these bills from the Senate to the House to the president's desk and then deliver this stimulus to our recovering economy, this relief to millions, tens of millions of working families across the country. And nobody knows how to lead the caucus over in the House better than Speaker Pelosi. So I trust that she understands how to best get this done, and that she and her old close friend, President Biden, as well as Leader Schumer, will be coordinating about what's the right path to get this done. The passage today in the Senate of this big bipartisan infrastructure bill is a critical step, but it doesn't amount to anything if it doesn't get to the president's desk. And the path to the president's desk runs through having our caucus also support the more bold and progressive vision on climate change that is embedded in this next bill. I'm fighting for the Civilian Climate Corps, Yasmin, something that would take an idea from FDR's time and modernize it, create an inclusive, nationwide, robust program to allow tens of thousands of young Americans to earn money for college, to gain skills, to commit themselves to our nation, and to helping everything from the forests of Colorado to the wetlands of Delaware and Maryland and Virginia, and help ensure that we are a more resilient country in the face of climate. There are so many things I could talk about in this reconciliation bill that we are taking up right now, but that's just one I wanted to mention.
Senator Coons, before I let you go, I do want you to talk about Afghanistan a little bit. It is a rapidly deteriorating situation. I'm sure, as you know, at this point, the Taliban has taken over control of Kunduz, and they are advancing very quickly in Afghanistan amidst a withdrawal from there. People that have invested the last 2 decades of their life, Afghanis, helping Americans, are being targeted as well. What responsibility does the U.S. have, and what are they willing to do to help?
3 things, if I could, Yasmin. First, we have a responsibility to do everything we can to provide for a safe exit from Afghanistan for those Afghan interpreters and translators, contractors, folks who worked directly with our forces over the last 20 years. And the administration has been working diligently and has already brought to the United States hundreds of interpreters. We had a classified briefing on this yesterday. Second, the Afghan government has to make some very hard choices, but make them soon, about how they are going to concentrate their forces. I'll remind you, we spent 20 years funding the training and the equipping and the supporting of the Afghan National Security and Defense Forces. I was briefed, every senator was briefed, year in and year out on how they could not defend their country without us backing them up. We're now seeing that develop quickly. One of the parts of the difficult choice that President Biden made after President Trump supported the peace agreement with the Taliban that committed the United States to withdrawing was that for us to stay there another 10 years with no hope that this would become a more stable, more secure government was something he just wasn't willing to sign up for another generation of young American service members. Last, we can and should continue to support the folks in Afghanistan who are looking to partner with the United States for development, for security, as long as we possibly can. And I'm committed to doing that here in the Senate.
Senator Chris Coons, thanks for rolling with me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Yasmin.
When the president begins, we're going to bring you those remarks as well. Thank you, Senator. Coming up.